Thanks for joining us for Season 3 of the Stories Unveiled podcast. Stories Unveiled exists to create a platform for people to share hope through their personal stories of what Jesus does in their life. Each episode highlights a different guest, just like you and I, wading through this life that can get so messy. This episode was a live recording of a streamed video chat. Due to streaming variables, please excuse any inconsistencies in this recording. I hope this conversation proves helpful and encourages you to go live unveiled. After spending years refining her craft in writers' rooms, Riley Clemmons has earned her spot on the scene in Christian music. Her debut single, Broken Prayers, in 2017, in addition to other hits like Fighting for Me, have generated over 500 million global streams and over 105 million YouTube views so far in her career. Riley has received recognition from Rolling Stone and People magazine. She has also received a Dove Award nomination, KLOVE Award nomination, as well as performances on The Today Show, Fox and Friends, and debuted at the Grand Ole Opry. As a Nashville native who is an accomplished composer, performer, producer, and recording artist, Riley draws her inspiration from life experiences to create such powerful songs. Thank you so much for being here, Riley.
Wow, it was quite the intro. Thank you.
It is, and I'm a little bit tired just like for you. Like I'm exhausted reading it.
You're sweet. You're sweet. It's funny, like those things, they happen, and then it's just crazy thinking back the journey to get there, you know?
Yeah. Actually, I would love to hear about that. So before you were, or was there a time before you were a recording artist and composer and all of those things? Like you were born and raised in Nashville. What was life like in Nashville before you accomplished all of these things?
Wow. Normal. I mean, really normal. I still feel like my life is kind of normal, you know? I grew up going to church and singing around the house and putting on shows with my sister and my cousins. And it was your typical go to school and do your extracurriculars after school and play with the kids in the neighborhood. Just very normal, you know, living in Nashville. We lived in a suburb just outside of the big city. And
yeah,
it was so normal other than we'd see tour buses pull into the neighborhood every now and then.
Okay.
And now it's a bit like, oh, other kids don't see tour buses pull into their neighborhood like it was a school bus. So, you know, you have both normalcy and non-normalcy, but I loved growing up in Nashville and I love living here now.
Did you always know that this is what you wanted to do?
I did. I mean, I think back onto my whole life. You know, I'm 24 now, and I think back to even childhood when people would ask. I think there was probably like a 5-year stretch when people would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I would say, oh, I want to be a princess. And, you know,
yeah,
it still stands. I would love that.
Absolutely.
Of course. But it switched pretty quickly to, no, I want to be a singer and songwriter. And I started my career just young enough to not cultivate or even think about a backup plan. You know, that's one of the pros of starting in music so young is you have this beautiful, free, naive spirit of, I don't need a backup plan, so I never had one, and I still don't have one. So here we are.
Well, it seems to have served you pretty well so far.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Most days I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Most days. But, you know, there are always those days.
Oh, my goodness. So talk to me a little bit about your journey getting from, you knew it was what you wanted to do. You grew up in Nashville, so you were around some amazing talent and kind of in the mecca of Christian and country music, really. What was your journey like to get to where you are?
Crazy and unpredictable. You know, God has definitely had his hand in all of it because I couldn't go back and plan it. I started writing songs in my bedroom as a kid, like in the back of the car on road trips. I was always writing, always singing, always wanting to perform for people. And, you know, I was that kid. I'm a middle child. It's part of the personality. You know, it's a whole thing. That was my life. You know, in school, I was doing absolutely everything I could do to be in the arts. And I grew up in faith. You know, that was my whole childhood, and that was my life worldview. So quite naturally, when I was 13, I was singing at a choir concert at my school and had a little bit of a solo. And I guess you could call that like my discovery story. I met my first manager at the choir concert. And from there, I started writing songs with other people, like adults in Nashville.
At 13.
Yeah, I was around 13 or 14. I was going around Nashville and writing songs and had no idea what I was doing other than I was living my dream, and it was everything I'd wanted, and naturally started writing songs about my faith and my life, and signed my first publishing deal when I was 15, and shortly signed with my incredible record label after that.
Yeah.
And here I am. It's been quite the journey of ups and downs and learning on the job, as I was, you know, quite literally for the first many years a child.
Yeah.
So it's been crazy and beautiful. It's been beautiful and crazy. I can't lie.
Yeah. Has there ever been a moment where you were like, this is too much, this is too harder? Or are you just still writing that, like, because you've been doing it for a while, but you are still so young.
Thank
you. You're
Thank
welcome.
you. I have wanted to give up and quit so many times. Yes, of course. I have days where I'm like, this is the stupidest decision I ever made. Why am I doing this? It's a turbulent industry, I will say. Even in the Christian world, there's still the business side of it, and that can be tough, you know. It's very competitive and all these things. So yeah, I mean, there have been many times where I thought I was done, and you know, it never worked. I never actually found it in myself to walk away from music, because I love it and it's my passion, and I love to write songs, and I love getting to do ministry through my music. It's very special. I don't know what else I'd do.
Yeah. Well, God's created you to do this. I mean, you have such an amazing voice, and I would love to chat about your newest song, Jesus Cries. That is your newest one, right?
Yeah, you're right. Spot on.
What?
Spot on.
Perfect. So I know that you drew some inspiration from the shortest scripture in the Bible, Jesus wept.
Jesus wept.
What was the rest of the inspiration from that? Like, what caused you to write a song about that? Tell me about your song, Jesus Christ.
You know, as a little kid, especially growing up in church and in faith, John 11:35 was a verse I gravitated towards, probably because it was the easiest memory verse, because it's 2 words. And
for real,
I gravitated towards that verse for those reasons. You know, it's one of those things where life starts coming at you really quickly, and the reality of some of the life is hard sometimes, and life is heavy sometimes. And stepping into adulthood, John 11:35, Jesus wept, is a verse that I've always thought about often. And I think one of the biggest wake-up calls of my life was walking through grief for the first time after losing my Aunt Sharon, who I was really close with, to cancer. Walking through that, and then shortly after, followed by a pretty heavy and dark season for me. And I look back onto that, and through walking through grief, through trying to process the feelings of it all, I found myself so comforted by the reality that Jesus is deeply empathetic. That Jesus, glorified Son of God, Savior of the whole world, is also Jesus, man of sorrows.
Yeah.
He's a stranger to pain and suffering and heartbreak and betrayal and grief and tears. And to know that that's the kind of Savior I have, it had a way of making me feel so much less alone. And that story in particular in John 11:35 is about Lazarus, and it's about Jesus, who, it says in scripture, Lazarus is one of Jesus's friends. And when he gets word that Lazarus is sick, he goes to Lazarus. And by the time he gets there, Lazarus has died. And Jesus weeps with Lazarus's family even though Jesus knows that he's going to raise Lazarus from the dead.
Yeah.
And it's just a reminder to me in the middle of my grief and sadness and my family's grief and sadness, in the middle of Lazarus's family's heartbreak, Jesus weeps with them. Mm-hmm. He doesn't wag his finger and tell them, oh, no, it's going to be better. It's going to be fine. Just whatever. No, there was empathy and compassion. And I think that the empathy of Jesus is one of the most incredible attributes that maybe is talked about the least. So that's the heart behind Jesus Cries. That was the initial inspiration. And that song continues to mean more to me as I go through more and walk through more.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Because you're right. In his full, all-knowing godliness, he knew what was going to happen, what he was going to do. But in his full humanity, he was able to sit with people that he loved and feel the things that we feel and experience the things that we experience. And it makes him such a personal God.
Yeah, so. It does. It really does. I think that's one of the hardest things about the human experience is sitting in unwanted feelings. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sitting in heaviness, sitting in heartbreak, sitting in sadness. That's hard.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do. And it's something I'm working on too. I'm not a very patient person. That's one thing you should know about me. I'm not patient. I'm not a patient girl. I'm very instant gratification kind of girl.
Yeah.
So sitting in uncomfortable and unwanted feelings is very scary to me.
Yeah. And I think that that's even for somebody who isn't impatient, super difficult, but it's like, okay, I'm ready to move on to the good emotions. I'm ready to move out of this and be done with this and get to the good part.
Let's get to the healing. Let's go ahead and get all healed up. Listen. Oof. Yeah. I mean, candidly, this has been a tough month personally, just a lot going on and a lot of those unwanted feelings of just heaviness and sadness. Yeah. And again, it's been a period of time in the past 3 weeks really where I've had to cling to Jesus and I've had to cling to experiencing emotions in their fullness and accepting them as they are and learning how to move forward and heal and get better.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're always so much stronger on the other side because of it, like.
Girl, I know that's right. I'm playing into that. Yes. I believe that. I believe that so much. I believe that it's refinement and it's, even when it's painful, I believe it's refining us somehow.
Yeah, totally. And even if we don't know what it is right now, it's like refining and growth are usually pretty uncomfortable, if not downright painful.
Girl, yes. Growth is painful.
Yeah.
Growing pains.
Yeah.
They say that
are real.
Yes. I don't think they're talking about the aches you get when you're going through puberty. I think they're talking about the emotional stuff. The emotional growth is really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It stretches us and it if we allow it to, it can greater grow our faith though. It consistently, I know for me, consistently gives me reminders of my need for Jesus and that I can't do this by myself.
You know what? I think there's I agree. When you hit a moment of lowness, when you feel desperate, and I feel like desperation is something nobody wants to talk about because it's uncomfortable and nobody wants to talk about feeling desperate, but
no,
it's gracious. In my most desperate moments, the only thing I know to do is fall on my knees and say, Jesus, you have to help me.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the pain that brings me closer to the love of Jesus.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So one of my favorite songs that actually I just knew who you were because of your song Fighting for Me is absolutely like it just speaks to my soul. And you're welcome. I am so curious, like, 'cause that's my favorite song of yours. Do you have a favorite song of yours? One that maybe, so I'll preface with, I feel like some of the most impactful songs made are those that are born, like you talked about with Jesus Christ, are born out of some of the deepest emotions and some of the most like pivotal life experiences. And I know that you do draw inspiration from your experiences when you write your music. And I'm just curious, what is one of your favorite songs that you've written that has been born out of, whether it's a place of desperation or just a life experience?
That's such a good question. Might I add, that is such a good question. There are so many that come to mind. I mean, Jesus Cries is definitely one of my favorite songs I've ever written. I'm not just saying that. It's genuinely one of the most raw and real. Yeah. There's a song called This Side of Heaven on my newest album too that, again, discusses grief and it's uncomfortable. That one's tough to sing live. I even go back to the first body of work I ever put out. I was 18. I remember during the time I was watching my mom walk through a really tough season after a really painful loss that she went through. It wasn't death, but the loss of a family member that in the form of betrayal. Mm-hmm. And that hurt. That hurt. And I remember watching her walk through that. She would always say to us that life is hard sometimes, and sometimes you're not going to know what to say, and sometimes you're not going to know what to do to help the people around you when they go through hard times. But the most powerful thing you can do is choose to stay by their side and stay in their life and be there in the middle of the uncomfortable parts. Yeah. And so I wrote a song for her called I'll Stay, and that's off the first record. That one's still one of the most personal songs I've ever written. And she has it tattooed on her wrist right here in my hand, which is also very special. So that's so sweet. Yeah, it's so sweet. It's so sweet. Wow. Every time I see it, I'm like, I'm like, wait, that's crazy. That's permanent. Yeah. So that's a special one. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Thank you. I know that you're passionate. You already said you're passionate about singing, songwriting, all of the things. What else does Riley love? Oh, how much time do you have? I mean, I'm a lover of life. Gosh, right I love now, that. A lover of life. You just love life. I really do. I really do. It's been a month. It's been a tough month, but even in the middle of a tough month, it's been like, no, I still really do love life very much. And I'm very grateful to be able to say that. There's so much goodness in this life. I love playing pickleball with my family and friends. Yes, I love pickleball. I just played this weekend. Yeah. I just played yesterday. I love it. It's so much fun. Yeah, it is. It's so fun. Yeah, I love pickleball. I love to eat. I love to travel. Yeah. Where's the favorite place you've ever gone? I loved Italy. Same. Oh, where'd you go? I went to Tuscany. So I was in Florence. And yes, I was in Tuscany as well. Yeah. It's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. Such a special place. Yes. Such a special place. The culture is amazing. Yes. Yeah. I love to travel. I'm a big family person. We do everything together. My siblings and I are very tight knit. We all got dinner last night. I love my family. I love doing things with my family. So you all are close, like in proximity too then? Yeah, we're all 15 minutes apart. That's amazing. So that's our crew. That's my people. So that's really special, and that's a big gift. And I love to exercise. I love life. I love a little bit of everything. I love to do a craft. I almost Amazoned some sidewalk chalk earlier today. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that later. That's going to be in my Amazon cart. So ordering sidewalk chalk and then just making beautiful art on the sidewalk, like at home? Yeah, I was talking to her yesterday, and she was like, you know what? One of the things that I've heard that's really good for your brain now is to think about something that you used to do and enjoy a lot as a child and do it again. Oh. And so she was asking, what's something that you loved to do as a kid? And I was like, I loved playing with sidewalk chalk. She's like, great, let's buy some sidewalk chalk. Let's do it. That's awesome. Yeah. Are you a good artist too? I mean, drawing? I don't know if I'm a good artist. Let's be honest here. But I do love to create things. I love art. I love to paint. I love to doodle. I just like to use my hands. I love it. There's nothing more gratifying than creating something. Yeah. That's why I make music. I love making things. I think it's so cool that as people, we have the ability to create something that didn't exist.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's so funny. You say that and I'm like, gosh, God created us from something that didn't exist.
Yes!
And he literally put that in us to in his image, right? To be able to create some beautiful things that ultimately, came from him, but he gives us the ability to do beautiful things.
Yes. God is the ultimate creative, right?
Yeah.
He created the whole world. And I do think that's so much in our DNA is to want to create and make something that didn't exist. You know?
Yeah.
So I love that thought.
That's awesome. Okay, so I have kind of a funny question for you. What is one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened while you've been on tour or just in the public eye, we'll say?
Oh man, I'm sure people have seen me pick my nose before. I mean, let's be honest about it. I'm sure that's happened a time or two. You know what? The most embarrassed I get, I'm not an easily embarrassed person, I will say.
Yeah.
I can thank my dad for that. My dad, he embarrassed us so much as children that we're immune now. Nothing embarrasses the Clemmons kids. We're fine.
That's so funny.
I'm most embarrassed when I will be on stage and I'll sometimes just say embarrassing things. The other day, I was my band absolutely roasted me for this one too, but I was just up there and whatever reason was all right, everybody. I was in the middle of an up-tempo song and I told everybody to put their hands in the air and wave them around like they just don't care. And why would I say that? I don't know. I don't know why I said it. And I was embarrassed. The band got a kick out of it. Those are the things that keep me up at night. I'm like, oh man.
What did I say?
Why did I say that? But that's a theme. We'll be in shows and I'll say one thing and be like, I'm going to hear about that later from my band and crew.
That is so funny. That's awesome that your dad conditioned you for being embarrassed. I feel so I have 3 kids. I have 3 teenagers.
You have 3 teenagers?
I do.
Whoa.
Yeah. I have 2 teenage boys and I have an adult daughter. She's 18. She'll be 19.
That's amazing. Good for you, girl.
Thanks.
No, you're welcome.
But my husband and I tease frequently, we'll embarrass them and they're like, oh my gosh. And it's I feel that's our job as parents a little bit to condition our kids and razz them and embarrass them just enough to where they don't take themselves too seriously. So they don't get embarrassed easily because we can be embarrassing, just people in general. We say things, we do things.
Being human is so embarrassing if you look at it like that. So embarrassing. You just have to lean in.
Totally. There you go. Just lean in. Just don't take yourself too seriously. Roll with it. Laugh at yourself. Have fun with it.
They like it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It is.
That's funny. I guess a little bit more on a serious note, what is something that you wish people would know about you? And we hear your heart through music and in things podcasts or whatever, but if given the opportunity right now to have a platform to just tell people what would you want them to know about you?
I feel very unqualified to do this. That's something that I'm grateful, and I believe that God has me here for a reason, but I would say on the average day, I feel very underqualified to do what I do and to lead in ministry. I joke all the time with my family and friends. I'm God picked maybe one of the most imperfect ones to do this. And I think that's what I say that and want people to hear that only because I think that I could have benefited from hearing that, especially from Christian artists when I was growing up.
Yeah.
There's this idea of, wow, they've really got it together. They really know what they're doing. No, I'm figuring it out every single day as I go and just trying to move through the joyful things and the adversity of life with the joy of the Lord and with faith. And that is hard sometimes. That is
Yeah.
so hard sometimes. It just is.
Yeah.
I feel very underqualified most days. I would say most of the time. And it really keeps me on the edge of my seat, wanting to continue showing up and trying my best. And yeah, I just say that to encourage anybody who maybe doesn't feel qualified. I think that's probably a pretty healthy heart posture for the most part.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would agree, because it's not in your strength anyways, right? It's the Lord that is giving you strength every day and doing what you're doing. And he's using everybody in different ways. And you get to be used through just incredible music and giving your message that way. So
thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, I'm very grateful to be able to do this. It's the biggest blessing ever.
So what's next for you? I saw that you have a Christmas album coming out, and regardless of when anybody is listening to this episode, after December of 24, it'll be out, but you're kind of building up to Christmas, right? Christmas
is coming.
Yes.
Christmas is on the way. I love Christmas. I'm certified, bona fide Christmas gal. I love it. Really?
Same. Yes. When do you decorate?
Well, this year I'm decorating as soon as Halloween's over.
Yes.
Because I'm going to be on Christmas tour with Michael W. Smith.
Yes. Amazing.
Gasp. I can't even. I'm so excited. I don't even know what to do. I've been listening to Michael's Christmas music since I was a child.
I was going to say, did you grow up with Michael W. Smith? Because so did I.
Oh, yeah. He didn't. It's literally the coolest thing I've ever done, going on Christmas tour with him. But we're doing 26 shows.
Wow.
If you do that, that's longer than the month of December leading up to the 25th. And
yep.
So, we're starting very early.
Yeah.
I'm going to be gone a lot, which is going to be great. But so I can enjoy the decorations.
Mm-hmm.
I got to start getting in the Christmas spirit.
Heck yeah. November 1st. Yes. I love it.
Yeah. That's why fake tree's happening this year. So
oh yeah,
we can do it.
That's awesome.
I love Christmas. I love it.
Well, I just have one last question that I really actually love to ask all my guests. And I would love for you to speak directly to the listener. And just what encouragement do you have for them in their walk with Jesus?
Keep going. It's sometimes overwhelming to think about. My dad's always said this. This is a quote from my dad. And he would always say this to me when I was going through tough times. And he still says it often. And it's such an encouragement, not only personally, but in a faith, from a faith lens as well. If getting through the next month sounds like overwhelming and too much, just get through the next week.
Yeah.
Getting through the next week feels overwhelming. Just take the next step to get through the next day. Then if not the next day, the next hour, the next minute, and whittle it down however small you need to. I think that I would just love to remind whoever is listening to this, and I mean it from the pit of my soul, there's a plan for you. There's a reason you're here. It's not just stuff we say to feel good. I really believe that. And I believe that it's easy to get discouraged and lose momentum for that next step, but all you're responsible in doing is just taking the next step in faith. And I promise you can do it even when it feels really hard. You can do hard things. You can do this. You're going to be all right. Just keep going and find good people in your life to remind you of that often.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Riley, for being with us on the Stories Unveiled podcast and just taking your time out of your day to do that. You've been such a blessing.
Thank you. Likewise. This has been great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation on the Stories Unveiled podcast. We would love it if you would leave us a rating or a review. If you would like to learn more about Stories Unveiled and our events, go to storiesunveiledconference.com or follow us on Facebook or Instagram at storiesunveiled_. The Stories Unveiled podcast is created in partnership with KTSY and Barefoot Media Ministries. For more encouragement and other podcasts, visit ktsy.org. Have an incredible day and go live unveiled.